Climate change is a global problem felt on local levels. As heat-trapping carbon dioxide is released by human activity into our atmosphere, it will linger for hundreds of years, warming our planet. We are feeling the impacts of these changes in our communities now, and we can expect impacts to continue and likely increase. Even if emissions are stabilized relatively soon, the effects will continue to last for many years, affecting future generations.
Climate change is a 12-month, 24 hours a day, 365-day event. Is it going to change? Well, it's already changed. How much it changes really depends on the rest of the world, on how serious they take this, and how serious they are about meeting their targets to reduce greenhouse gas emissions.
Climate change adaptation is, I think at its core, it's adapting to the impacts of climate change and learning how to move forward in a changing environment.
Because of these long-term effects, responding to climate change must involve the stabilization of greenhouse gases by reducing emissions, as well as strengthening our communities and altering the ways in which we live alongside the environment to adapt to the new challenges. This is called adaptation.
Adaptation is a series of deliberate and comprehensive actions that a community takes to help avoid, manage, or reduce the effects of climate change on human and natural systems. To ensure adaptation measures are relevant and effective for communities, we need to translate scientific information and Indigenous knowledge and ways of knowing into action and build regional capacity and adaptation expertise. This means working with Indigenous peoples and governments, including community-based initiatives to build capacity for adaptation action and address the specific risks they face due to a changing climate.
In the polar regions, global warming has been dramatically amplified compared to the rest of the world. The Arctic as a whole has warmed 2.5 degrees Celsius over the last 100 years, compared to global averages of slightly less than 1 degree. These changes are even more profound in the winter months, where warming rates have been observed to be double or even triple the rates of summer warming. A warming atmosphere combined with a warming ocean has led to the melting of precious sea ice. Sea ice extent most rapidly decreases during the fall months and has been observed to be declining at a rate of about 13% per decade since 1979. These values are lower during the winter. Sea ice thickness is thinning at rates of up to 10 centimeters per year. Tackling this issue head-on is Smart Ice, winner of the 2016 Arctic Inspiration Prize and the United Nations Momentum for Change Climate Solutions Award. Smart Ice is a cross-sector social enterprise that works to integrate traditional knowledge with sea ice data.
So in the Arctic, the climate has been changing for the last decade. It's not something that's necessarily in the future. So I think we need adaptation happening now to allow people to cope with what these new conditions are, the unpredictability of changing climate. Smart Ice integrates sensors on the ice, so technology and Inuit knowledge to make sea ice travel safer. So it gives the information almost in real time in some cases. Where is the ice dangerous? Where is it safe to travel on as normal? So Smart Ice is actually a working climate change adaptation tool. And I think what that does is put directly into the hands of the community what they need to do to address climate change.
On the Arctic shores of northern Quebec, a joint research project by the Nunavik Regional Government and l'Institut National de la Recherche Scientifique is monitoring sea ice conditions in Salouet, Deception Bay, and Kangiqsujuaq.
We go out on the land and on the sea a lot. So in the springtime, the sea ice melts way earlier and we can't go out fishing or hunting. I'm mainly the guide to take them on the sea ice when they want to drill a hole, see the thickness of the ice and the snow on top of it. We've put a couple of devices underneath the water, and that device is sonar radar from underneath that checks how thick it is. With that data, it helps us with when the ice is thin, more thin.
Since 2000, scientists have recorded a 1.2 degrees Celsius temperature rise in the permafrost of northern Canada. Seasonal thaw layers have been increasing across ice-rich permafrost in the Arctic since 2008, which is causing significant surface settlement and erosion.
V'là 50 ans, les ingénieurs, quand ils arrivaient dans les villages inuits, voulaient construire, par exemple, je prends l'exemple des Iqaluit. Les ingénieurs pensaient que le sol est essentiellement gelé pour toujours. On a construit des infrastructures en ayant une perception du sud. Puis malheureusement, on voit le changement climatique qui affecte le sol, donc la fondation même des villages puis des infrastructures qui commencent à dégeler. On voit beaucoup de déformations dans les pistes d'aéroport, on voit beaucoup de déformations dans les maisons. On a fait des avancements majeurs en ingénierie du pergélisol. On s'en va dans la bonne direction, mais malheureusement, il est trop peu, trop tard, mais on s'adapte. Les chercheurs puis les communautés inuites ont beaucoup d'expérience. Tout depuis 5-10 ans, donc on essaie de transmettre le savoir scientifique aux Inuits pour qu'eux puissent prendre leurs décisions. Parce qu'eux, ils voient le terrain, les changements climatiques, eux, ils le voient d'une façon différente que nous. Eux, ils vont le voir plutôt par des formes, ils vont le voir plutôt par la migration des caribous. Nous, on met des données, mais eux, c'est par le transfert de connaissances, par les elders qu'ils appellent dans les communautés.
While communities and researchers rally behind climate change adaptation techniques, some organizations are laying the foundations for how community-driven research will help people make decisions about when and where they travel. In addition, the information will be documented, categorized, and made accessible to everyone. Working with Inuit and Cree communities living in Hudson's Bay, the Arctic Eider Society's 2017 Google Impact Challenge project winner Siku is a first prototype.
Siku is an Inuit knowledge Wikipedia and social mapping platform that's intended to provide self-determination for Inuit for research, education, and environmental stewardship. The idea is there's all these different data portals out there, but there really hasn't been an interface for Inuit that's by Inuit. So an example, in our community, one of our elders, Peter Katic, is out at the flow edge every day in the winter, and he's been seeing the diets of seals change from Arctic cod to shrimp. He's seen it, so he has a data point every single day. And so now with the mobile app, he takes a photo of the stomach contents, spatially tag the photo's GPS reference, it can show up on the community's timeline. There's been a lot of precedent groups like Facebook, Nunavik Hunting Stories of the Day, but they're giving up their intellectual property rights, and also if you want to mobilize that knowledge, it's near impossible. You'd have to scroll and scroll to try and find the hunting story you told last year, for example. So with Siku, it brings together all these social media mapping tools, so it really helps with Inuit self-determination and research, so people can come up with their own questions, and scientists don't have to second guess and prove everything that we already know to be true. So.
As the effects of climate change continue to evolve, it remains uncertain exactly how each region of the North will be impacted. And although the impacts of this change may not be fully realized in our lifetimes, there is no doubt that communities across the North will continue to take innovative, proactive, and culturally sensitive steps towards adopting climate change adaptation techniques.
I think that it's important to prepare communities to take advantage of opportunities that climate change brings. It's not always negative, it can be positive.
I think it's important because in the future it might be risky for us to be traveling on the bay if there isn't enough ice. If it starts doing that, it's going to benefit us that we know in advance.
There's so many opportunities across the board with adaptation, and for anyone to bring it into what they're doing. And also to be building healthier, stronger communities. That's the goal of adaptation.
And I think something that's extremely important for people to realize is that climate change is but one challenge amongst many. And it's not always the most important or pressing challenge. A healthy person, a person that is physically healthy, mentally healthy, a person who has strong identity, well, that's somebody who's going to have high capacity to adapt.
Federal, provincial, and territorial governments need to support vulnerable regions by investing in infrastructure, strengthening capacity, supporting community-based monitoring, and advancing research, monitoring, and information for coastal regions. Many communities are already implementing these best practices. Adaptation is an individual, communal, and global responsibility.